All right, guys, welcome in. Here we are in the last day of the year in 2025, and we're going to be going over my list of the best and worst movies of 2025 of the year. So it's been interesting. The first half of the year was mired with remakes and intellectual property titles and prequels. Um, to the point where I just stopped going to the movies. I said I'm just gonna wait for stuff to come out on, streaming or whatever because it just wasn't worth it. And I mean, this is while I have a Regal unlimited subscription, so it's like if things were there, easy access to go see them. But really, there was just nothing. Warfare, came out in April, I think, and that was really the first movie that at least made a mark, made some kind of an impact. Um, and then Eddington later on. I don't remember when Eddington came out. Was that May? Was that June? I'm not sure, but um, I'm just curious here. Okay, it was in July. So yeah, I mean, it was a very slow going year. It was very kind of like took forever for any kind of momentum. Um, you knew that one battle after another was coming in the end of September, October. Um, obviously you knew about Marty Supreme, you knew about certain movies. I mean, Sinners was a big early movie conversation topic. Um, you had Weapons that came out in August. And I did the best and worst of the year last night on the Barroom podcast with Society Reviews and Rick Aragon, and we all went over our best and worst of the year. So, um, a lot of this is going to be repeated, but a lot of my followers don't necessarily watch that show, so it'll be fun to kind of go a little bit more in depth into what I picked here. So, and then the second half of the year was much better. Had a lot more movies by auteurs and people that know what they're doing behind the camera. Even stuff that was relatively disappointing but adequately made, and you don't necessarily feel like your time is wasted as much watching those movies, even if again they have their own problems, and don't make my best movies of the year list. So yeah, it's definitely been a mixed bag, but the thing is, looking at the rest of the decade, it certainly is better than the average year. 2020, 2021, 2022, 2024 were all terrible. So, and I can't really say it was a terrible year. I mean, there was plenty of bad movies. Don't get me wrong. Okay. But there's also enough good movies to kind of offset it. So, um, yeah, I see the other film accounts, like, I don't know, like, I forget what it's called. It's like Film Takes or whatever, like the guy that has the Denzel Washington Avatar or whatever, different critics across film Twitter. They get all excited. They're like, "Oh, 2026 is going to be even better." And it's like, I mean, I hope so. It's not exactly a high bar to kind of cross there, but yeah, it's not been a good time for the movies. And obviously, since Warner Brothers got sold, it's the writing's on the wall. But we've known that for a while now, if you're paying attention. So, but without further ado, let's go ahead and go over my list here of the best and worst movies of the year. I guess we can go ahead and start with the best movies of the year. So I'll go ahead and share my screen here. Just be on Letterboxd. So just bear with me here. I'm terrible at transitioning. All right, there we go. All right, so we'll start here with number 15, Mission Impossible: Final Reckoning. Okay, so this is the seventh movie in the franchise, I believe. And look, you know what you're getting at this point with these movies. Um, you know that it's action melodrama. You know that it's, you know, the high stakes, and you know, literally the world is on the line. So y- you know what the material is. You know what it is consists of. Um, I think ultimately, you know, some people found it disappointing. Some people didn't like it as much. Some people look. I thought that this was an excellent send off to this character, to this franchise. Um, you know, the types of movies and the types of work that Tom Cruise has done, the stunts, the, you know, the sort of risks taken in performing them, all of the different equipment and technology used to capture it, and just what he sacrificed. I mean, not only, you know, his, you know, the wear and tear on his body, but literally, like, you know, I forget which movie it was. I think it was a couple movies ago where he snaps his ankle doing the one stunt and getting, you know, and they literally got, that's the shot that they got, you know, that's in the movie. And it's just like, man, you can't really, you know, you can't really take that away from him. You can't say that he's not committed. You can't say that it's not you know, something that's ultimately very inspired. And you see that and feel that in the movie. Again, the stunts and the action set pieces are just fantastic. They're just so well executed and so well constructed. And ever since Christopher McQuarrie took over the franchise, these have been worth seeing on the big screen in the movie theater. You know, I think most of the Mission Impossible franchise is forgettable. The first one by Brian De Palma is pretty good, and then the last four are definitely worth watching when McQuarrie came on board. Um, but yeah, the plane stunt work here is just like, it's the cherry on top of so much good work, and really the sun setting on a specific type of movie that's no longer going to be made. And you know that that's true. You know that, you know, it, and look, there's good things about that. I mean, obviously people aren't risking their lives or, you know, being maimed because, you know, something went wrong, but that the thrill of knowing that there is risk involved, and expertly pulling it off, and executing the job and getting it done and getting it caught on camera, and I don't know, something is lost because of that. And it was a worthwhile endeavor, and it made movies more exciting, and tactile, and feel more alive, which, you know, maybe that's an unethical conclusion to come to. I don't know. I don't fucking care. But it just sucks. You know, it sucks that we're at that point where, you know, that's really why there's more of an emotional connection for me to the movie, because it's about more than just the movie. It's about you know, movie making itself. And again, because it's, yes, on the surface, it's a dumb action movie melodrama thing, adapted from a 60s TV show. Sure. So I understand. I get it, you know. But in terms of the craft, in terms of the execution of the material, it's just so well done. And compared to, you know, whatever, Fast and the Furious or any other action franchise that's airless and stupid and irrelevant and just has no, um, you know, no stakes and no reason to sort of occupy, you know, your mental space. It's just like, you know, at least you have something like this that, um, I don't know, it gives people what they want. It gives people their money's worth. It has beautiful women and amazing, again, amazing stunts and these action set pieces, and it's a good time at the movie theater. I think that that's what it provides. I don't think it's really anything more than that, um, but I did really like this final chapter here for Mission Possible. Number 14 is Ballerina. This is the John Wick spinoff. Um, You know, this is interesting because I think the movie, as it was made originally, was probably much worse than what we got, where Chad Stahelski did reshoots and basically reconstructed the movie to be what the finished product is now. And so I had a really good time with this. It doesn't really ask Anna de Armas to do a whole lot. I think she's serviceable here. John Wick actually shows up in the movie. It's good. The action's well done. It's well executed, well choreographed. I think it's a good entry in the John Wick universe, but it's certainly not a necessary movie in the timeline. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I liked being able to see those familiar faces. And again, since there was so little early on in the year to really talk about, it became a movie that was just like, yes, this is awesome. This is fun. Nobody went to see it, so it didn't really make a whole lot of money, but I think that over time people will check it out on streaming and appreciate it for what it is. So number 14 is Ballerina. All right, number 13, we have Nuremberg. This was a movie that I saw in theaters in October. Um, you know, just a serviceable kind of studio movie. Um, I don't want to, there's not a whole lot to say here. Russell Crowe gives a pretty good performance as Goering, the general who oversaw, the Holocaust and everything, and was prosecuted for it at Nuremberg, and how he manipulates Rami Malek, who plays the therapist, who's, tasked with doing a psychological evaluation on him. And so it's a little bit about that. It's about, I know it's going to be an overused phrase here, as it is always with the Holocaust, but the banality of evil. And we've seen movies about Nuremberg before, so I think this takes somewhat of a new angle on it. And I look, there's just not much to write home about this year, but I will say that Nuremberg is a really solid studio picture with good performances. It's certainly worth seeing for Russell Crowe. And yeah, Michael Shannon plays the prosecution attorney, and you've got John Slattery. So I mean, it's solid. But yeah, it's more about Rami Malek's character kind of struggling to paint an accurate picture of the defendant, and obviously towards the end, he kind of sees him for what he is. So yeah, good historical. I mean, it's not a biopic, but it's more historical event kind of movie. So Nuremberg coming in at number 13. Black Bag, number 12. So Black Bag is, I mean, it's not a movie that, I mean, it's not complicated. It's very simple. It's pared down, but it's executed very simply by director Steven Soderbergh. It's the kind of movie he knows how to do very well. I mean, it's almost structured like a play where, it's about intelligence agents. Yeah, I could say that. And there's a mole, and they have to figure out who it is. And so there's a dinner party, and the host, Michael Shannon, and I think it's Cate Blanchett. Yeah, Cate Blanchett, dose them with, I forget what it is. It's basically truth serum. And so it's like a Clue with spies, is kind of how I put it when I saw it. So clever, fun, a movie for adults, and just something that's like a fun 90-minute movie. I think it was 90 minutes. I'm probably full of shit. No, 94 minutes. Yeah. So really good. But in I've seen reactions all over the place, but I really enjoyed it. Again, I think it's well written. I think it's clever. I think it's interesting. And while it's the format is somewhat familiar, uh, the movie never becomes stale and never overstays its welcome, and it stands out easily as one of the better movies of the year. All right. So number 11 is After the Hunt. So this is a movie that I was a little hesitant to include in my top movies, but here's the thing. I like what the movie is about. I like the actors. I like some of the performances. Some of the dialogue is very weird. I really chalk that up to Luca Guadagnino. Um, especially Michael Stuhlbarg's character and how much he's like doesn't act like a husband would necessarily. So, but you know, maybe I rated it a little too high at 4 out of 5, but I liked it. I liked how it provokes the audience. I like how it kind of gets under the skin of its characters. I like how it's not it's not under the assumption that victims are always honest, and that this sort of cancel culture, Me Too era, prosecutorial sort of moment we're living in is, I mean, there's a lot of bullshit behind it. And there's a lot of people who will ultimately take advantage of this, who, they can't, when things like this happen, you know, there's very little, there's very little way to sort of prove the accusations. And so it becomes like this scarlet letter thing. And, you know, you start to see people's motivations, you start to see people's ground shifting beneath them in terms of the interactions with their colleagues, interactions with the students. And I haven't even gotten into it. This takes place at a college university. A professor is accused of sexual assault on a student. The students had been struggling with their work, and so it looks like this could be something that's just a convenient excuse. And a lot of the dialogue between professors is very cynical, and I appreciate that. I appreciate someone kind of making a movie about um, the fact that not everybody is of pure heart. Not everybody is has the best of intentions and will use whatever they can to get ahead and climb that ladder. So, I liked After the Hunt. It's certainly not perfect. I think it has issues, but um, for this year, definitely want to put it in my top 15 here. Warfare, which I talked a little bit about, coming in at number 10. This was a very solid, very well executed military drama. This platoon of American Navy SEALs is kind of stuck behind enemy lines. And a lot of it is just sort of the brutal reality of dealing with wounded soldiers in a location where you're receiving heavy fire and you're trying to coordinate an escape route, and you sort of just feel like the walls are closing in on you. So very claustrophobic, very intense kind of war thriller here. And it is about a real event here I think it takes place in Iraq, Baghdad, I believe. So that's definitely one to check out. It's not much more than that. Like it doesn't really like flesh out the characters. It's just like a situation movie. They're there. They got to figure a way out. There was some hand wringing when it came out, like on film Twitter, about the fact that like, oh well, they're not the victims, and it's like, shut the fuck up, please. Jesus Christ, you're missing the fucking point of what movies are and what the function is as critics. It's like it's about empathy. It's about looking at a human being in a situation, basically being hell, and just trying to find a way out. And there's some absolutely like just brutal, you know, uh, like the wounds and shit like that they show, like the bat. I won't call them battle scenes because it's the aftermath of those battle scenes, but just absolutely harrowing. So Warfare comes in at number 10. Number 9 is The Long Walk, the Stephen King adapted movie, or the Stephen King book that was adapted into the movie that came out in August, with Cooper Hoffman as well as David Johnson. So Mark Hamill plays the antagonist here. So this is a fairly simple movie. I mean, it's The Running Man, but a little bit more of a, I mean, I won't say more of a dour tone because they're both dour they're both, you know, downbeat dystopian kind of stories, but um this sort of like minimalist Running Man is how I would put it. It's just this contest, and the you know, last man standing wins. I forget if it's like $1 million or something, but and you know, the metaphors to and parallels to Vietnam are there. So and that's what it was about, kind of when Stephen King wrote it. And according to my mom, I haven't researched this, but according to my mom, it's the first novel that he wrote, not that he sold, but that he wrote. So I found that kind of interesting. But I think Cooper Hoffman gives a very good performance. David Johnson gives a very good performance. It's a heart wrenching movie. It's you definitely feel the loss, not maybe not of every participant, but of a lot of them, especially as you know it gets further and further and further along, and you know it's just looking at it as, you know, the individual kind of being pushed into this no win, or like, you know, it really is a no win situation, because even if you win, you have to witness all this awful shit along the way. And so like the movie just definitely makes you feel the loss of those, you know, those final 10 participants. And it's definitely it's just very emotionally striking, kind of as they are kind of, you know, drop off one by one. So and I know I usually say like visually striking or whatever, but no, I just mean like it's a gut punch. It's a kind of an arduous task getting through this movie, just because um it can be harrowing. And I try not to overuse those words, you know what I mean? Because there's a lot of, again, movies, you know, you can have a lot of kind of like fucked up movies or whatever, but yeah, The Long Walk was definitely a tough one to sit through, just in terms of how disturbing the material was, but and just heartbreaking for the people that you're watching kind of just endure and continue on. So The Long Walk coming in at number 9. Blue Moon is number 8 here on the best movies of 2025. Directed by Richard Linklater. This is the story of songwriter Lawrence Hart, of what was it? Hart and fucking A. I'm trying to remember his name. It was, yeah, because I'm trying to think of Hammerstein, and yeah, I'm gonna forget it. See, it's right in front of me probably. So yeah, Rogers and Hart is what it is. So, but this is basically a film play. It takes place in one location. Lawrence Hart is kind of at the end of his career. Oklahoma has just come out, which kind of is the start of his partner's relationship with Oscar Hammerstein, and their successful run of musicals from, you know, the mid 40s on. And amidst all this, you know, it takes place in Sardi's bar. He has become obsessed and smitten with this young actress played by Margaret Qualley, who's 20 years old, and you know, you can see it from the start, you know, that this guy is a fool. He's very knowledgeable, obviously, and opinionated about musical theater and art and literature, and uh, you know, he's very blue, let's say. Um, so there's a lot of fun material that Ethan Hawke can kind of roll around in, and he gives one of the best performances of the year. Just tremendous commitments, and they did a great job with the makeup and the hair, you know, the hairpiece, and making him look incredibly, you know, incredibly short, which I'm assuming Lawrence Hart was short. So, but he, you know, he's a fool. He's sort of this romantic, lovelorn fool, and you can see it coming from a mile away. You understand what it is. So, but you know, those of us that, you know, anybody that's ever been foolishly romantic, or you know, you know, wished for that connection to happen with, you know, with that person that makes you feel that spark, that kind of thing. And so I just, you know, I think anybody can relate to that. So, I'm sure some fucking idiots like, talking about an age gap there. That's like, yeah, I just shut the fuck up, like, please. It's just like it's some fucking movie, please. Anyway, so Richard Linklater, I think, did a really good job with this one. But it's very dialogue driven. I think that there are a lot of challenges with the material just based on that, and so how it's structured is very smart, creative, somewhat dynamic, and kind of breaking up the monotony of monologue that Ethan Hawke kind of goes into. So, but really good movie. Heartbreaking. Again, that's a kind of a familiar refrain here. So, sorry, I have to answer this text here while I'm on stream. Give me 1 second. Okay. So Blue Moon coming in at number 8. All right. Number 7. Sentimental Value. So Sentimental Value, this is a movie that really was not on my radar. It is a foreign movie directed by Joachim Trier. It's about a director who hasn't made a movie in like 20 years. He's estranged from his 2 daughters. He has this screenplay that he's written that he wants to film, and he has this sort of negotiation with his daughter, who is an actress, to basically play a version of herself. And there's a lot of familial arguments. There's a lot of sort of family drama at play. But there's a big reveal 3/4 of the way through the movie that kind of changes things for a character, to the point where it's a really well executed drama between some really skilled actors, including Stellan Skarsgård. And I just think it's one of the best constructed movies of the year. I think it's in 2 languages. It's in, I want to say, Swiss as well as English. It might be something else. It might be like Danish. It might be I don't know. I'm sorry. You know what? Hey, if we go to the movie, do you think maybe it'll tell us? What do you think? What do you think, guys? You think they would say, that it's not, whatever. Why aren't things catered to me constantly? Okay. Well, we'll just have to figure that out. Yeah, it doesn't say. Anyway, but Sentimental Value, definitely want to check out. Great performances. I definitely think it'll be a contender for Best Picture next month when the nominations get announced. Anemone. So this is the film directed by the son of Daniel Day-Lewis, Ronan Day-Lewis. This is a movie about 2 brothers who meet up at this cabin that's kind of out in the wilderness, and they kind of talk about what one of the brothers had to endure in his childhood. And I'll just say that it has to do with childhood abuse and church, like a priest. And yes. But yeah, so it's a pretty dark and fucked up movie. I think the performances are incredible. I still don't really understand why critics as well as some other reviewers have not been as high on it. Has a 2.8 out of 5. I think it has some of the best acting performances and some of the most creative and dynamic filmmaking choices of any movie that came out this year. So, I mean, it's not perfect. Certainly, it's a first-time effort by this young director, but I'm certainly interested in seeing what he does next. But I certainly thought it was one of the most interesting and dynamic movies of the year. Coming in at number 5. Give me 1 second. All right, coming in at number 5 is Train Dreams. So this is basically Terrence Malick in the Pacific Northwest. That's how I would describe it. But no, I mean, you have Oh my god, I can't remember the guy's name. Will Patton, I think. I think it's Will Patton narrates it. Um, and he's got that kind of like, timbre in his voice, and it's worn, and it's got all these crackly little qualities that make it very pleasing to hear on in a voiceover, recorded in a studio, and the naturalistic images that play out, and it's an incredibly beautiful, somber, introspective sort of meditation. It has a lot of melancholy to it, but it's not miserablest. It's soulful. It's this man who has lost a lot, the sort of encroaching industrialization of 20th century America, um, kind of getting in the way of man's relationship with nature. I thought it was a beautiful movie. I really enjoyed it. Joel Edgerton, I think, is an excellent actor, but I know a lot of people will find it pretentious. I know a lot of people will find it to be, again, this sort of Terrence Malick, like, just get to the point. I understand. It's not about that. You have to really enjoy going on that journey. You have to enjoy that kind of artistic, indulgent expression of, these intense emotions that aren't necessarily going to be readily available on the surface of an actor's face. That you have to linger on it. You have to stay there. You have to study it a little bit. And a lot of people can't do that. A lot of people have issues with doing shit like that. And I get it. I understand. But I just think it's such a wonderful movie. Soulful. But again, it's just a lot of people find that stuff to be really like insufferable, and whatever, that's to each his own. Because not every, again, I'm not the biggest Malick fan. I really love what is it, Badlands, and I love Days of Heaven, um, and I love Knight of Cups. Everything else is a little like uneven and flawed to me to some degree. I mean, The Thin Red Line is a very good movie. Don't get me wrong; it's very good. I've only seen it once, but yeah, definitely check that out if you haven't seen it. But you know, it just depends. It depends how it hits you. Ultimately, everybody's a little bit different. So number 4 is F1. So I have not shut up about F1. I've probably been its biggest cheerleader. I would probably be completely fine with Brad Pitt getting an Oscar nomination for Best Actor. So give me 1 second here. Uh, it's Rocky in a race car. It's a guy who kind of never got a shot after wrecking early in his career. He's kind of bounced around, and he's always just been looking for the opportunity to fulfill his dream of winning an F1 race, of being the best in the world. And it does a great job of immersing the audience and putting cameras in fascinating places, and the hard cuts and the edits, and feeling that acceleration, feeling those turns, and just holding your breath when you realize the car's about to crash. All of those things coming all of those things are so undervalued from a movie going audience perspective, but they are so incredibly hard and difficult to pull off and to execute on screen in that cinematic quality. And you have that with the overall, it's an adequate sports drama movie. You know what I mean? You see, if you've seen Rocky, if you've seen Any Given Sunday, if you've seen Rudy, if you've seen any of these movies about working towards a goal, a dream, whatever you have, you've seen this type of movie before. So I understand when people say it's cliche. It's very, you know exactly the plot beats of what's going to happen. You know, the sort of ascent and the second half sort of decline, and then the rise back up in the third act to finish off the movie. And of course, there's all that. But there's a bit of like a wink and a nod and like, hey, we're here to have fun. Let's go win a race. Let's go do it. Let's go, you know, there's this enthusiasm, there's this momentum that we don't really have in a lot of modern movies anymore. There isn't that genuine excitement, that energy that almost pulsates out from the screen. And that's what I mean. Like, if you told me that this was the movie that I was probably most excited about, it's just like, why? It's fucking it's car, you know, it's cars racing or whatever, but it's like, yeah, it's real people driving cars, risking something to bring entertainment to fucking literally billions of people, seeing how successful it was and how many people bought tickets and how well the box office was. So um it's such a fun movie, and every time Brad Pitt hits that finish line and wins that race, you know, and I don't know what it is. I don't know why that emotional catharsis comes through every time, but it does. But I think it's having gone through something. Oh God, I'm going to sound stupid saying this, but in my own way, having gone through something where you worked hard for a goal and you kept doing it and it was difficult and you had setbacks and you had, you know, moments where you doubted yourself. You were able to come through. You were able to do the hard thing that so many other people couldn't do. And, you know, you did it. You accomplish your goal. So that's why, you know, people ask me, you know, um why it affects me emotionally. That's why, you know, but um and that's the funny thing, because I think about this all the time with movies, where I always tell people that um movies are a window. They are not a mirror. And so it's not about you, right? And I do think that there is a way to be a good critic where you do apply your own experiences to the movie you're watching, but applying it fairly and somewhat equally. You know what I mean? Not projecting. I think that that's important. But if something means more to you than simply because you relate to it in a personal way, I do think that you can effectively be a good critic. You just have to balance that out with, you know what I mean, putting that in context. So, and I'm not the only person who had that reaction or who loved this movie or enjoyed it. I mean, it made over $600 million worldwide at the box office. You know, it was in theaters for 3 months. It really did great business. And so with F1 and Top Gun Maverick, I'm pretty sure Joseph Kosinski has like made his last two movies have made $2.8 billion. I can't believe that's a real fucking number, but um yeah, so I don't know. It's just like and again, it's dumb. Trust me, it's so dumb when I think about it. Where like, so you literally cried at a Brad Pitt race car movie. It's like, yeah, every time I've seen it. 'Cause it's like, you know, it's the monologue that he does out on the balcony where you can see Trump Tower in the background, which I'm sure people love. You know, when they're in Vegas. And, you know, him and expositional dialogue, lazy as shit, right? But it doesn't matter because it's Brad Pitt. We buy it because it's Brad Pitt, because we want to buy it. Um, and just that, like, you know, this seemingly selfish, you know, aggressive, somewhat self-destructive guy. Oh, he's really not. You know, he's just working hard to get back to the place that he wanted to be at. You know, that during the movie he's working towards, you know, achieving. And I don't know. I don't know why. I mean, I just explained it why it's meaningful to me, um, but anyway, that it every time I went to see it, and especially in IMAX, it was a worthwhile, fun, incredibly quick 2.5 hour movie experience. 156 minutes. You know what I mean? So, I definitely spent a good amount of time with this movie. And I mean, there's stuff in it that you can kind of roll your eyes at, like Carrie Condon being the first female race engineer like thing. But it's like they don't play it like they don't make it an embarrassing DEI thing. It's just that's what she is. And of course she's a love interest. And anyway, again, very, very cliche. I'm not gonna say it's not, but highly entertaining, really well executed movie. Number 3 is Begonia. This is Yorgos Lanthimos, his next movie or his newest movie, working with Emma Stone once again. I love this movie. This was my number 1 movie, I think, before I kind of reorganized my top list here. This is a great Twilight Zone episode movie. It very much is, it's a situation. It's definitely clever. It's definitely quirky, out of left field, but not out of the realm of our times. Let's say, with conspiracy theories and spending too much online and echo chambers and the belief in whatever far-fetched conspiracies you can cook up. So this is a lot of fun. I'm trying not to spoil this, but basically, this is a black comedy that kind of suggests that the human race isn't worth saving, isn't worth enduring, isn't worth stewarding towards something better. That really we should just be eliminated. That we've shown ourselves to be a vicious, evil, all-consuming cancer on this planet. And while that's sort of like that nihilistic black pill thing, like he does it in such a funny, clever, interesting way, with Jesse Plemons being stupid but not too stupid, kind of like someone whose mind has been warped by his life experiences, his frustrations, as well as what he has spent his time doing online. And then you come to find that he's even worse than you realized. So it's just, there's a lot of just like sad, kind of tragic things that happen in this movie. And it's depicted somewhat funny, but it's really just fucking sad. And there's a lot of that, I think, in Lanthimos's work. Poor Things. I loved Poor Things. I thought it was hilarious. I had a great time with that movie. That was just a fun movie in my estimation, that a lot of people kind of freaked out about because of the whole like baby brain thing. But Begonia has Emma Stone playing a female CEO. He kind of pokes fun. Lanthimos kind of pokes fun at the whole like diversity thing that she's having to film these videos of what their mission statement is and everything. So some of that was pretty funny. And then she's kidnapped by these two fucking these two guys that obviously spend too much time online. One's played by Jesse Plemons. The other I guess is Aiden Delbus, who is he plays a guy who seems like he has an IQ of like 88. You know what I mean? Like borderline. I'm trying not to use the word, you know what I mean? Developmentally disabled. Is that a fair, label? But yeah, he's obviously not very smart, and is kind of led around by Jesse Plemons' character. But and without again, I'm not gonna go into the plot too much, but really funny movie. Definitely worth watching. I wish more people had seen it just so that there was more conversation about it. But yes, the real takeaway from it is no one is coming to save us. And even if they were, we don't deserve to be saved. So, and I mean, I've listen, that's not exactly an alien concept. Haha, alien concept. To me, looking at the human race and what it consists of, but I try to have a more balanced view of it and not despair so much, because it doesn't help. There's good and evil inside each one of us, and we collectively need to realize that so we can hopefully move on and away from like fucking mysticism and fairy tales. You know what I mean? Because that's kind of what's, if clinging to that is dangerous ultimately. Anyway, moving on before I piss off some people here. Number 2 is Eddington. So Eddington, to me, did everything right that one battle after another did wrong. And I know that that's a little bit black and white here, but look, I loved that Eddington captured the COVID moment, captured masks, captured, these highly reactive, hysterical personalities coming out. I loved, the sort of social justice warrior bullshit, the woke nonsense. All of that was great. Even Joaquin Phoenix character is lampoon, in that, he's so focused on this shit that doesn't matter ultimately that, he loses his wife to a cult leader. You know what I mean? And he just like everybody is a complete joke. Everybody is this almost not quite a caricature, but almost. And then you have this massive data center being built, which, by the way, is becoming an issue, and people are protesting that and the amount of resources that they take and all that stuff. So, I just think it's this amazing satire that's really funny, that captured the moment of COVID, that captured this insane hysteria that we all went through, that I don't think we've exactly come out of. And I don't know. I was so thrilled that Ari Aster made this movie because it's very much a middle finger to the status quo, and very much like all you fucking idiots who acted like complete assholes, who treated people as less than, who dehumanized people because they wouldn't get a fucking vaccine or wear a mask. And it's just like, and look, I'm not saying that it's only that perspective. It's a satirical movie that's sort of critical of pretty much everybody. And then it devolves into these like assassination attempts with like Antifa, and just like it gets fucking crazy. So to me, it's a fun, wild, crazy movie that it is allowed to go off the rails a little bit. Like, I know there's a lot of people who say like, oh, it just became too ridiculous or too crazy or too whatever. That was the point. The whole point was how fucking insane that moment was to live in. And so and everybody, and like the cast here is just crazy. Joaquin Phoenix, Emma Stone, Pedro Pascal, you had Austin Butler. So, I don't think enough people have seen it. Like, I think, you have cinephiles and whatever, but I think it's a really underseen movie that hopefully will become a cult classic over time, because man, I just thought it was such a fucking lashing from Ari Aster. Like, you fucking idiots. And I liked his last one too, Beau is Afraid. I know that was kind of like a fever dream, like a hallucinatory fever dream for a lot of people, but as someone who deals with a lot of self-loathing, I definitely appreciated that one. So, all right, number one, Marty Supreme. So this was such a fucking fun time at the movies. This was such a joy, such a good time. All right, so Marty Mauser, ping pong player. He's in the pursuit of a dream to be the best, while trying to kind of contend with his chaotic life. And even if he is ultimately the most chaotic part of it. This is a very ego-driven, confident, at least acting, young man who is pursuing his dream at all costs. Sometimes he's ripping off people. Sometimes he's hustling. Sometimes, he uses people. He's not above lying to get what he wants. He manipulates his way into rooms he doesn't belong in. He, nearly gets, physically harmed because he's so audacious. And that's what I keep coming back to with his character, with Chalamet's character and his performances, that the audacity of what he says, of what comes out of his mouth, of the commentary, of the brashness, the attitude. It's just so fresh. It's so alive. It's so present. So many of the scenes that Safdie, puts together feel idiosyncratic, feel so alive in the moment. And it's man, it is such a fun kind of 100 mile a minute type of narrative. It People have compared it to Uncut Gems, and I mean, it might be similar, but I really don't think it's at that type of breakneck pace. It's a 2.5 hour movie, but it goes by, like that. It goes by real quick. So you really don't feel that. And there's so many surprises in this movie. I mean, you have Pamela Adlon's daughter who plays, Marty's love interest. You have Gwyneth Paltrow, who coming back after so many years out of the game, who looks great. And she's the wife of Kevin O'Leary's character, who is kind of the key to, Marty getting to this match in Japan, so he can make a name for himself and beat the best in the world. And so you just have a lot of colliding elements that are so they're so fundamentally satisfying when put together, when these ingredients come together. And I've seen a lot about like this character's an asshole and he's immoral and unethical, and yeah, he's a young guy who's pursuing his dream at all costs in an obsessive fashion. And by the end of the movie, he has grown and has this arc that is beautifully realized. And through all of this has matured and become a man. That's what the process of this whole movie is. It's him going through all of these things and achieving something and achieving his ultimate goal, and realizing that his life is literally about to change with the birth of his child. And what that means, and it's an irrefutable moment. It's you can't go back, you can't change it. You are fundamentally different from that point on. And so this movie is really a snapshot of who your parents were before they were your parents. Who were they? And what could have happened to them? What did happen to them? What did they go through? What were the wild incidents that they got themselves into? They weren't always conservative and looking out for their, I don't know, their safety and well-being. They lived reckless too. They were immature. They hurt people. They did all sorts of things. They made mistakes. Of course, Gen Z moralizing has a problem with this. But you know what I mean? So it's like, you can grow. It's okay. You can do things that are awful and realize that you were wrong, and that you made mistakes, and that that you need to be humble, and you need to have humility and respect. And all of that takes, sort of not doing that, sort of making those mistakes, acting in a brash, egotistical, selfish manner. And so I think that that's a really wonderful thing that is realized throughout this movie, all while being incredibly fun and funny and exciting. And I'm trying not to be hyperbolic here, but so yeah, this definitely knocked me on my butt a little bit. And I'm sure the curmudgeon-y cinephiles that I talk about movies with will be split, or some will really like it, some will think it's overrated, some will think it's just okay. And that's movies, that's movie discourse. But I think Chalamet definitely has earned a Best Actor Oscar for this one. I would really love to see Kevin O'Leary get a Best Supporting Actor nomination, but it's a long shot, honestly. But that would be really fun. So if you haven't seen it, please check it out. It's a really good movie. It is my number one movie of the year. So that is the top movies of 2025, guys. Moving on now to the worst of the year, and you can already see it. Okay, I talked a lot about the worst of the year last night, so I'm not gonna try to spend too much time on these. Sinners, look, it comes down to the fact that it's just not a very good movie. Um, Ryan Coogler was given $90 million and a $45 million marketing budget to produce a ripoff of Dawn of the Dead. Excuse me, not Dawn of the Dead. From Dusk Till Dawn. Thank you. With a sort of like Southern Black 1930s point of view. Um, okay, I mean, you spend a lot of time on things that don't matter, that don't move the story forward, that don't heighten the atmosphere. Really kind of obsessed with one of the Michael B. Jordan characters being with a big black woman with a big butt, and that this is progressive and somehow identifying of the black experience. You know what I mean? It's so fucking stupid. You have characters who like openly talk about cunnilingus, and like you have Josh Allen's wife, um, who's talking about you know doing shit with the other Michael B. Jordan character, and it's just like, okay, who's this for? Like, who are these characters? These people really talk like this? Like, I'm sorry. Like, I know you made these guys like gangsters or whatever, but like, where are the church ladies at? Like, what's that about? Like, what? And whatever. I know you have like the opening with the kid who's the son of the preacher or whatever, but and then so it takes an hour. The first act takes an hour to get going, an hour before like the vampire shit actually starts. And so it just, it's the pacing's off. Then you have the whole like historical uh, African American achievement scene that's one of the most, actually it is the most embarrassing, it is the worst scene in movies in 2025. That you would choose to do something like that, that I mean reeks of it reeks of like a need to be to get attention. It's like attention seeking, like we is smart, we matter, we is kind, like kind of bullshit. It's like, guys, your insecurity, and I should clarify, I'm talking to Ryan Coogler. Your insecurity is showing. Your need to be a valid member of society and be seen in your blackness is like, that obsession, that deep need to be seen. We get it. So I mean, I just found it to be completely embarrassing as an artistic execution. um that just that deep need to, like, we matter. It's like, okay, like, are you that insecure about your own identity? Okay. So yeah, it just not a very good movie. Certainly overrated, certainly hyped up by the critics because it's a black movie. um you know what I mean? And look, I don't care. Like, I'm like, come on, let's talk about Bill Duke. You know what I mean? Like, let's talk about different, Ernest Dickerson. Let's talk about different directors that I do like. I mean, it's nothing to do with that. Ryan Coogler sucks. He just fucking sucks. Whether it's Black Panther, whether it's Fruitvale Station, his fucking Creed movies, they all fucking suck. He fucking blows as a filmmaker. I'm sorry. You even talk about personality free. That guy fucking blows. So just, that's all it is. So, and yes, my review of it on Letterbox got removed for being racist, but it was We Was Kangs the movie. But seriously, that's what it is. It's this elevation, it's this deification of, we had our culture stolen away from us. It's just like, oh, poor you, poor you. So it's just, I understand, but it's like, it's this grievance politics horse shit again, it drags your movie down. It makes it less interesting. It takes away from the goodwill you built up with the costuming and the sort of gangster aesthetic and the 1930s look to the movie and stuff like that. It's empty. It's just this empty, attention-seeking pat on the back, and it's like so to Ryan Coogler and to all the people that love this and are desperate for it to be a success. It's just like, get behind a good movie first. Like, make sure the movie is good first, and then like overrate it with praise. I said I wasn't going to take long, and now I keep going on and on because I fucking hate Sinners so much. Anyway, number 10 is Drop. I'm not going to talk too much about this. I like Megan Fahey. That's about it. It's an absurd movie. It's stupid. Another movie that's overly reliant on the smartphone to communicate information. So just terrible. Mountainhead was an HBO Max movie, sort of about AI and these tech overlords kind of like running the world at a certain point because they're so rich and so wealthy. Kind of an interesting concept, but the execution of it is absolutely atrocious. It just evolves into this terrible like murder conspiracy thing, and yeah, kind of feels like predictive programming, with AI being able to trick people into thinking atrocities are happening in the first part, and then they had nowhere to go with it in the second part. House of Dynamite is the Catherine Bigelow nuclear war movie. Kind of just a forgettable exercise in, Aaron Sorkin styled diplomacy. Not a whole lot here. Idris Elba, Rebecca Ferguson, Jared Harris, solid cast, but I the ending was just a nothing burger. And so even if the preceding 2 hours were okay, it just ultimately went nowhere. So it's you have to ask at a certain point, why am I watching this? The Life of Chuck had a kind of interesting start, and then just became this life affirming, like life of Walter Mitty piece of shit fucking Hallmark card. I just thought it was an atrocious movie. Mike Flanagan, it, all of his sensibilities are kind of the opposite of what I enjoy. So I'm not terribly surprised that this was just an absolute dud, but ooh, just a cringe fest to sit through, unfortunately. Shelby Oaks, the movie by Chris Stuckman. Yeah, this was rough. This was a Blair Witch Project ripoff that didn't remotely capture the tension or, I don't know, indie movie spirit behind that one. That kind of made a lot of money on a shoestring budget. This is what Chris Stuckman kind of sold out as a critic for, to kind of get into filmmaking, and it's kind of just a terrible movie. But maybe he'll get another chance. He'll redeem himself, but yikes. And I mean, horror movies, I don't know. I feel like horror movies are the easiest things to do in terms of like the low budget, shoestring budget thing. And this still costs like a couple $1,000,000. So you need an idea. You can't just like feign that you have some movie idea, and then it's just a copy of a better movie and nowhere near done as well. So moving on here as my screen goes away. Die My Love. Oh, postpartum depression, the movie. I'm not sure who this is for. This is like a mix of Woman Under the Influence and Melancholia. It's a worse made Melancholia. It's an unpleasant woman who's depressed and lonely, and her husband is off, and she's alone to take care of the kid, and she makes herself believe that he's having an affair on the road, and it's just kind of a miserable, ugly movie that allows Jennifer Lawrence to be a kind of miserable, a miserable hole. So, I'm sure third wave feminists will really like it. I'm sure it'll be relatable to women with PPD. So, I can't recommend it really to anybody, though. I'm sorry. Lynn Ramsey is talented. Okay, I mean, no, I'll say she's talented, but some of her material and choices are just like, okay. All right, whatever. Sure. The monkey. I'm not going to talk too much about this. This is Osgood Perkins' follow up to Longlegs. This was just. This was a irritating, ear splitting, get on your nerves, bullshit kind of horror movie. Jump scares that, again, you can see coming from a mile away, and you wonder what or who this is for. It was an unbearable watch early on in 2025. Happy Gilmore 2. All the cameos in the world can't save you. Mean spirited, stupid, ugly, just terrible. A terrible, terrible movie. Terrible movie. I mean, they'd be better off not making it, and not even Margaret Qualley in a cute golf outfit could save this one. So, yeah, this just completely unbearable to watch. Superman. Superman, or as I call him, Super Bitch. This was every mistake you could possibly make in the book. Making a Superman movie, James Gunn seemed to endorse and seemed to get behind. Superman is weak. He's ineffectual. Lois Lane is probably the least of the movie's problems. You have the obvious, mirroring of what Russia and Ukraine, and Israel and Gaza, and those like dictatorial sort of characters. Lex Luthor, played by Nicholas Hoult in an over-the-top way. Sort of terrible example of bizarro Superman trying to be implemented. The fucking super dog, the super girl who's drunk. What is it? Kindness is the new punk rock. I mean, absolute bullshit garbage line where I could feel the soul leaving my body. This is just an atrocious fucking movie on every possible level. I mean, if this was a movie, I would want to beat the shit out of it. I mean, absolutely beat the shit out of it. So, hated Superman. So I'm happy it lost money. I'm happy that James Gunn looks to be out here at WB and DC. All right, last but not least is the War of the Worlds movie. I'm not going to say much here. This is just a terrible movie. It's basically told through screens. There's like no acting going on, minuscule budget, put out on Amazon Prime without any kind of fanfare, with obvious reason. I mean, this is sort of a bottom of the barrel. This is what has become Hollywood's sort of example. So that's going to do it. That's going to do it for our worst movies of the year. We did best and worst in about 68 minutes. So, I mean, if any of you want to interject here, what did you like? What did you not like? What were you just absolutely surprised by, either good or bad, in the year? Because I'm curious, because everybody's different. Everybody likes different stuff. Everybody dislikes different stuff. People might like one actor or another. I mean, to me, I think that One Battle After Another is almost the most interesting movie of the year, in the sense that everybody seems to have a different takeaway of what it's even saying or depicting. So, I mean, that movie is interesting to me because, to me, One Battle After Another, okay, was a very moderate view. It wasn't, oh, it's a leftist, if it's a leftist perspective movie or it's a right-wing perspective movie. No, it's more of a moderate perspective, in that, like, everybody that it depicts outside of Chase Infinity, the girl, the daughter, is kind of a caricature, is lampooned, is made fun of, is not to be taken seriously as an earnest character profile, and I don't care if you're talking about Tiana Taylor. I don't care if you're talking about Sean Penn. I don't care if you're talking about Leonardo DiCaprio. Any one of those characters, the resistance movement, all this stuff. Like, the fact that Paul Thomas Anderson depicts these people as unable to move on from the 1960s as an idea, as a framework, as a format to resist a supposed fascist government, was absolutely hilarious. Was like, you people still haven't moved on from the Black Power bullshit fantasy that never came to fruition. You know, that like you people are unorganized, you're running around, you're terrorists, you're running around like a bunch of fucking idiots. And it's like, yes, the government or whatever, the militarized government, police state is absolutely fascist, and they're evil and whatever, but like you people are an absolute joke on top of that. And so it's like you're both kind of running around and like playing this pretend fantasy war thing, and it's just like, what are you doing? So I saw the movie from that perspective. Bob, Leonardo DiCaprio's character is very much, made fun of and made the butt of so many jokes, and so um there's so many depictions of the resistance or the revolutionaries being like detached, fucked up, sadistic, disgusting, terroristic individuals. And so it's just like, so, but to you, they're the good guys, huh? Like but to me, that's why it's a satire. It's satirical, and all of its depictions, with the exception of Chase Infinity simply trying to survive, trying to escape her kidnapper. Um, but but to me, the dramatic irony of all of this is that, you know, her mother abandoned her. Her mother was a self-destructive person who sought conflict and, you know, cheated on her father. And, I mean, in any kind of way is not a good person, a good character. Now, I don't personally care, because like a character can still be interesting even if they're not moral or good or ethical or whatever. I mean, we just talked about Marty Supreme, but there was also nothing there. I mean, she was also a caricature of the Black Power. I'm gonna fire an assault rifle while I'm pregnant. You know, like people found that empowering. It was fucking hilarious. It was like, this is such a caricature fucking cutout of like the Black Power resistance movement of the '60s thing. You know what I mean? Like, how do you not see you're being fucking lampooned and made fun of here, leftists? And that's what was so funny about that. And that's why people on the right, people like Sasha Stone, even people like, Society Reviews Jacob, you know, might talk movies with on the Barroom podcast, you were convinced that, oh, it's like it's this brave resistance movie. It's like, it's not. Look at the tone. Listen to the tone of the movie. Listen to the tone. It's not serious minded. It's not earnest. Again, with the exception of like the ending with the chase and the where there are actual stakes and stuff, and like, absolutely, sure. And so to me, it's dramatic irony at the end of like her following in her mother's footsteps, of the person who abandoned her and had no clue what she was doing, and was self-destructive, and m- basically laid out the worst possible groundwork for her child to follow in the footsteps of. Like, okay, sure. So to me, it's ironic. It's not serious minded. It's not earnest in its execution and its depiction. But, you have people who don't understand that, and I hate being the guy who talks about media literacy, because but I know what the fuck I'm talking about. I know what I'm seeing. I know how to recognize what I'm looking at. You know what I mean? And so that movie was very clear to me. And look, I thought DiCaprio was funny. I thought the movie was funny. I enjoyed it. Okay. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5, but I also had issues with the movie too. You know what I mean? And so, I mean, to me, there were pacing issues there. Doesn't all quite gel together. I think that the chase scene is somewhat overrated by critics. But again, fairly enjoyable movie, funny, good satire. But I think so many people just did not understand it. Like, it just went over their head, or they saw what they wanted to see. And here's the thing, guys, like, on some level, you have to do that, because you have to, like, subjectively say what a movie is in your vision and how you see it. But like I do not do that. I don't lie to myself. I don't lie to myself. I just am I try to be as honest as I possibly can be about what something um is communicating to me as. That's the best I can do. That's as honest as I can be when it comes to that stuff. So I think it's an interesting movie to talk about. Um, but the amount of idiots who think that it's this, you know, it's championing like leftist values or something. It's a fucking bourgeois movie. It's made by a bourgeois Gen X well-off Hollywood director who made it basically for his daughter. You know, and that's, by the way, this is the weakest Paul Thomas Anderson movie, and that's why, because he made a kind of milk toast, somewhat mediocre kind of like I'm a dad now kind of movie, and that's fine. Listen, it's fine. It's sweet. It's nice. It's nice. It's nice that you don't have that Quentin Tarantino obsession about, you know, the movies like needing it to be like, we can only do 10. Shut up, Quentin. You're a fucking asshole. I love his movies, and he's an interesting personality. This is what people don't understand. Just because you say like one thing against a guy doesn't mean you're throwing the baby out with the bathwater. No, you're just commenting on the one thing that they said that they're in the news for. You know what I mean? So people struggle with that all the time. I'm supposed to go see Wicked 2 today. But I don't know. I might not. So it's because my mom is a fan of the series. So I wouldn't go see it otherwise. You know, I don't like musicals, and I really have no interest in seeing that one. So, but that's gonna do it for 2025, ladies and gentlemen. Some solid movies out this year. You know, check it out if you check them out if you don't get the chance, or if you get the chance. I can't fucking talk. Some of them are streaming right now. Others are out on Blu-ray and disc, or Blu-ray and DVD. So you can check those out. You can see my collection behind me. I have 545 movies on disc. So yeah, and I just did count up my Criterions. I have 78 Criterions on disc, which is pretty nice. Started collecting those back in 2017. My first Criterion was Straw Dogs, 1971. So, not going to keep the stream going for too much longer, but, are you looking forward to anything in 2026? Is there anything that's kind of has caught your eye that's coming out? I mean, I'm certainly looking forward to the Odyssey. When that got announced, I was like, oh boy, here we go. You know what I mean? Like Oppenheimer was fucking badass. It was so good. And then now he's going to do the Odyssey. That this is going to be like a 3.5 hour, 4 hour movie, right? Like, it's going to be an epic motherfucking awesome movie. I can't wait for this shit, because this is the exact kind of thing that I would want Christopher Nolan to adapt. Something biblical, something old, like old school, old epic studio movie, just like David Lean. You know what I mean? We're talking fucking Mankiewicz kind of status. That it just let's go. I can't wait. So and it's good too, because hopefully it'll like encourage younger viewers who don't like older movies to watch Ben-Hur, to watch oh shit, what's it called? God damn it. Bridge on the River Kwai, Dr. Zhivago, what's it called? Lawrence of Arabia. There we go. These kind of historical epics, these epics, Antony and Cleopatra, even if it's not great, the spectacle of it, the scope of it, the size of it. And then, we're going to get to see it at IMAX. So it's going to be fantastic. I can't wait for the Odyssey. As always, I'm waiting for S. Craig Zahler to make his next movie. Hopefully we'll see something from him soon. But yeah, 2025, not a bad year. We definitely had some bad movies for sure. But we made it through. I'm going to get back to reviewing movies as a semi-professional critic. So that's exciting. That means I'm going to go to the movies and I'm going to actually write out reviews, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to streaming more and talking about movies and engaging more with you guys. I'm going to have to, I'm going to try to have to follow a schedule of some kind, because really it's just, hey, if you're online while I'm streaming, maybe you'll have, time to drop in. But anyway, January, I don't have any kind of theme planned. If you think of anything, please, let me know for ideas. But I'll have to go through and maybe research and see, like, maybe what some good ideas for January are. Maybe movies about resolutions, but I don't know what the fuck that would even be. You know what I mean? So we'll see. For today, I'm just gonna watch movies, take it easy. For 2025, I watched about 860 movies, 870 movies. So another good year for me. Um, I'm just trying to keep adding to my repertoire and my education. Um, Trying to grow up as much as I can, especially through discourse, and not insult people just because they disagree with me, on a movie. So trying to grow up. I'm about to be 37, so it's probably time to try to venture that way. So anyway, it's been fun. It's been I like doing this. I like being able to discuss my thoughts and feelings on movies. And I've had a really good year. I've had a really good 2025. I've stayed busy. It's been constructive. I went to New York City, had a great vacation, saw Glenn Ross on stage there with Kieran Culkin and Bob Odenkirk, Michael McKean. Bill Burr was actually very good in that as well. Ate at some great restaurants, Patsy's. I ate at Smith and Walensky, and then I forget what it is, but it's that like super like ritzy, famous seafood place. Not famous. It's only been open for a couple years in Midtown Manhattan, and I'm like, okay, well, there's a million places like that. But I had a really great trip. I lost over 40 pounds. I gained 15 pounds of muscle on top of it. So I'm going to continue on that, continue with my diet and everything. So things are going well. I wish you all a really pleasant new year. I hope it treats you well. I hope you make good choices and you find some peace and well-being. Okay. So take care of yourselves, take care of your loved ones. I'm going to go watch some movies or something. But all right, bye.